Hey guys, what's happening? So apparently, a lot of Caribbean residents, Caribbean American people, are worried that they would be sent back home in this new dispensation of Trump. And it's all because we are hearing the word denaturalization. Now, you can become a naturalized US citizen and you can also be denaturalized. We're going to go back to where it all started. It started with President Obama. That's right, the first black American president. He launched something under his administration called Operation Janus and Operation Second Look. It's called Denaturalization of Citizens with Removal Orders. That's where it started, actually. So, Operation Janus is a program that started under President Obama, focusing on reviewing fingerprint data of naturalized citizens. And it has resulted, when it started, it resulted in basically 4 civil denaturalization cases brought into the federal court. But apparently, thousands more were coming in, and significant funds were being diverted from the adjudications budget in 2019 to pay off for it. So we did have a problem. It started under President Barack Obama. And in September 2016, a report of the DHS Office of the Inspector General that the government revealed that it had failed to review the fingerprint cards in almost 150,000 naturalization cases. In 2009, the agency started to go back to review those unreviewed fingerprint cards in a program called Operation Targeting Groups of Inadmissible Subjects. The program, of course, then went on to be called Operation Janus, which it reviewed, then which involved scanning them into electronic fingerprint database, then comparing them to other prints in the database. It found 858 cases where people had old deportation orders, allegedly adopted a new identity, and then eventually became citizens under the new identity without informing the government of the old orders. And the report had announced at that time that they would be focusing on people from special interest countries or countries that border special interest countries, right? So back then they looked at majority Muslim countries, and they also filed 4 Operation Janus denaturalization cases. Now, that's where we were. That's where it started all the way back when. And of course, since the Trump administration will be getting a second term, up comes Stephen Miller, who is a senior advisor to President Trump and the founder of America First Legal. And he said on his Twitter account, yes, we started a new denaturalization project under Trump. In 2025, expected to be turbocharged. And of course, you remember in 2020, the Justice Department established an office to denaturalize immigrants as well. And into more information, and we went into the ACLU, and we got some information here. And they were saying that who are the targets of denaturalization? They said a wide swath of individuals have been targeted for denaturalization since January 2017. And they're talking now about the Trump administration. But remember, I just told you it went back to President Obama. These attacks are consistent with the Trump administration's fear-based narrative, for which wants the public to believe is dangerous. It says under other administrations, those targeted for denaturalization were often Nazis and other war criminals trying to escape prosecution under assumed identities. Now, the administration is attempting to strip citizenship from individuals based upon all removal orders issued when an applicant did not appear, discrepancies in applications, and allegations of crimes that they had not even been charged with at the time of their naturalization. US citizens are entitled to an investigation and process when they are accused of crimes. As with other Americans, they should not include the threat of stripping away citizenship simply because an American naturalized rather than being born a US citizen, right? So in previous years, denaturalizations were pursued in small numbers, and they said averaging 11 per year from 1990 to 2017. However, they said under the Trump administration, the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, referred 95 cases for denaturalization to the Department of Justice. And in 2018, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services stated its intention to refer approximately 1,600 additional citizens to DOJ for prosecution. Now, in 2019 budget, they requested the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE reveal its intention to review the files of what? 700,000 U.S. citizens, putting them, even more individuals, into the denaturalization pipeline. Now, they're saying in order to strip the citizenship of a naturalized American, the government must initiate a process called denaturalization, which can only occur in federal court. Court can order civil revocation of naturalization if the government establishes that a U.S. citizen is subject to one of the grounds of revocation. A person's naturalization can be revoked either through a civil proceeding or as a result of a criminal conviction. In either case, the government must prove that the underlying act was material to the government's decision to grant citizenship. Now, what are the grounds for denaturalization? There's civil and there's criminal. Illegally procured naturalization, concealed or willfully misrepresented a material fact during the naturalization proceeding to obtain citizenship, became a member of or affiliated with a subversive group, and procured citizenship through military service and has since been discharged under other than honorable conditions, or procured citizenship through a parent or spouse who has since been denaturalized. Now, under the criminal section, they're saying knowingly procured or attempted to procure naturalization in an unlawful manner. Now, when you go into the court, the burden of proof in the civil, you must have clear, convincing, and unequivocal evidence that you did not commit A, B, C, D, E. On the criminal, you have to have information or evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. The right to counsel in the civil, there is none. Criminal, yes. Right to jury, none in the civil. In the criminal, yes. Statute of limitations in the civil, none. So you can go way back when. And in criminal, it's 10 years, right? So this is why you're hearing a lot of talk about the denaturalization and why Caribbean Americans are worried. Now, how did we get here? Of course, like I said before, in 2010, the Obama administration launches Operation Janice, through which it will continue its investigations of immigrants who were ordered deported and suspected of obtaining citizenship using other identities. And then it went on to 2015, 2016, 2018, where we had 1,600 additional cases for prosecution. In February 2018, where we had a budget of 200 million and 700,000 U.S. citizens cases for denaturalization. And in 2018, of course, there were already a systematic review of cases of individuals ordered deported, including those ordered deported in absentia. And that's a timeline of where we are. And now that we are here again in 2024, we found ourselves with this program being highlighted one more time. But I must tell you, in 2020, there was an office established to denaturalize immigrants, okay? Now, persons have been asking me, does the U.S. Constitution allow for this? Yes, it does. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 talks about denaturalization, revoking citizenship generally. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 talks about the establishment of the rule of naturalization. And it goes on to talk about how someone can become a naturalized U.S. citizen. But most persons are actually worried about the denaturalization. And yes, it is also in the Constitution. Now, in the theory, or in describing the theory of denaturalization, the Supreme Court has stated that A, alien has no moral nor constitutional right to retain the privileges of citizenship if by false evidence or the like, an imposition has been practiced upon the court without the certificate of citizenship could not and would not have been issued. Thus, there must be strict compliance with all congressionally imposed prerequisites to acquisition of citizenship. Failure to comply with any of these conditions renders the certificate of citizenship illegally procured, and naturalization that is unlawfully procured can be set aside. So the Constitution does address it as well. So that is something that you want to know while going forward. But this is a serious matter, and we have to address it time and time again. We'll have to go back to it because a lot of persons have already been heading to the Canadian border, but the Canadians are sending them back to the US. But this is a serious matter. It is a serious matter. So guys, take care. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast.